Good morning. This morning we're going to talk about policy and churches. You know, the big question is the purpose of the questions of policy, whether a specific course of action should or should not be taken. Normally, we can look at the world. Can a nation live without policies? The United States, for example, we have the Constitution. We have to respect that. Everybody has to abide by that. Other than that, you can go to jail. Anything can happen. A family, for example. Can we have a family we don't give no weight, no rules to our children? Then what's going to happen to those children? Destructions. A classroom. Can we have class? Can we have, for example, a seminar and there's no rules and regulations? Then everybody will start talking about whatever they want to talk. So if we go down to the church, because this is our main topic, the saying churches cannot be without rules and regulations. But there is a CEO on the top of all churches. That is God. Now, some Christians say that there is no law. And some others say there is law. There are two authorities in this world. That is God and that is Satan. Some people choose to follow God and some choose to follow Satan. Now when we look at it, the policies of God, which is the commandments, the 10 commandments, talk about the loving of God, I talk about do not kill, do not commit adultery, all those things. These are good stuff. But now some people don't believe it. Some people say Jesus when Jesus died on the cross, those things, the law of God died with him. That's the reason why we have our friend here, Mr. Himmers, in an article he stated that the law, when Jesus said it is accomplished, in John 19:30 on the New International Version, which is this book, and it says that it is accomplished. So that means to him all the law, the Old Testament prophecies concerning the death of Jesus were finished. It says that all obedience to the law of God was finished for God's people on the cross. How could it be? That's when the other people come. He said, no, that's not true. The law of God is still into effect because they talk about, when they consider Matthew 5:17, for example, that says, when Jesus said, don't think that I have come to abolish the Torah or the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to complete. So, it simply means to them that Jesus was not against his Father, but came to accomplish a mission that God gave to him. So, now, when we look at the Old Testament and the New Testament, and let me back up a little bit. In Matthew 5:17, so we have that from the complete Jewish Bible. Now, when we look at the Old Testament and the New Testament, if we go back again to what Himmer was saying, he claimed that there's no law. But now let's look at this to see if the law should not be. This is the Old Testament. This is the law and the prophets. And then we have the sin. The law exists because of sin. Now we have the New Testament, Jesus Christ, his death, resurrection, and grace. We have grace because of the sins. If sins was not there, we would not need grace. Grace allows us to ask for forgiveness. No longer we have to do the same thing for the Old Testament where we have to kill a lamb. And that's what died on the cross. People took what Paul says in a different context, and they said Jesus was, Jesus died and all the law, went within. In Colossians, 2 verse 14 and 15, it says, he wiped away the bill of charge against us because of the regulations. It stood as a testimony against us, but he removed it by nailing it to the execution stake. stripping the rulers and authorities of their power. He made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by means of the state. So what it means basically, they no longer have to kill a lamb to wipe their sins away, because Jesus has done all that by dying on the cross. But the commandments of God remain, because the commandments of God has nothing to do with that action here. Now, when we continue, and if we look at Romans 6, verse 1 and 2, the same Paul, and it says, what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we, that are dead to sin, live any longer therein? Do we then make void the commandment through faith? God forbid. We establish the law. So that means the law is still into effect. Now, when we look at all those two groups, and when we look at the policy, then we can truly say the law of God should remain. We should observe the commandments of God, because that's what will bring us to the love of God. Keeping the commandments of God is to love God. Because if we don't keep the commandment of God, it simply says we don't care about the things of God. You have a great day. That was my speech. Thank you.